I think Arteta knew that he wasn't going to have a lot of money to spend bringing in new talent. So with Suarez and Mari there, he had to do something. And I think he's just putting himself in a position of spreading what money he's got a little bit more strategically.
Yeah, yeah. And no, I'm with you. His hands are tied, isn't it? It's just like, and that's what I feel for him. And I'll tell you what. And this goes back to Emery, because you talked about Arteta having a plan. I think Emery had a plan.
Oh, he did.
The problem is, he didn't get what he needed to execute this plan to the best. So people can knock him and say he seemed confused. It's because he didn't want those players. So he's having to adapt a system with players he didn't have. So we can knock him and say, oh, he's confused and, he was awful and all this stuff. Now, you need the tools. You can have as many tactics as you want. Yeah? If we had Pep Guardiola this season, I still think we'd have finished out the top 4.
I think you're right.
Now, or Klopp, I still think we'd have finished maybe 4th, 5th. I still don't think they'd have been challenging or anything like that. And they're two of the best managers in the world.
Because Pep wouldn't have had that unlimited bank account, would he?
You see what I mean? So we can say all these things about coaches, but they need to be backed. And that's my thing this summer. Arteta needs to be backed. And he might not get his number 1 choice, but his number 2 and 3 need to be close enough to deliver, be able to deliver what he needs to deliver.
Yeah, he's got to have a cluster of players in each position with a 1, 2, 3 against them. And to know that at least they offer something that fits into the architecture he has in mind.
Yeah, so that's where the jury's still out. I don't know whether that's going to happen.
Of course, sometimes you end the season and some accidents happen and you end up making some discoveries. And one for me was the goalie.
Oh, amazing.
And I actually think that Martinez, I'd seen him play before. We'd all seen him play before. And I actually thought he was a good goalie. But I think he is, for me now, I feel a bit sorry for Leno, but for me, I'm making the number 1.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I would. I like the fact that I always used to think, Leno is a good goalie. I like him. I like his manner. But sometimes there was a sort of, he takes risks.
He does. He does.
He likes punching that ball out. Whereas Martinez, I like the way he grabs the ball.
He catches it, doesn't he?
He catches it. And I like the way he kicks it. He's got a South American side kick. Yeah. And it's really accurate, laser accurate.
Yeah.
So I think you've got a goalie there who can improve he's got positional sense. And he's cool as a cucumber. And he's big. For me, I know it's maybe a bit outrageous because I say I really like Leno. I felt really sorry for him when he got that injury against Brighton. But I think, as we haven't mentioned the goalie yet, I thought I'd just say that I think sometimes necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
He had that imposed on us. And sometimes it can open your eyes or make you think. But anyway, whatever happens, I think there has to be a contest now between the two of them. Must be.
That's interesting.
Because he's delivered some good performances. Well, at least I think he has.
That's very interesting that you should say that. Most people are saying, most Arsenal supporters I know anyway, are saying Lennon should come back in. But you've said some key points there. I think his distribution is a lot better than Leno. I think he takes less. Yeah. He takes less risks. I totally agree with you. I think Leno is a better shot stopper.
Yeah, of course, he's very acrobatic as Leno. We've seen some stunning saves.
That's what I would say. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I've just got this funny feeling about Martinez. We've talked about the fact that we've got a central defender in David Luiz who makes him nervous.
Yeah.
Martinez, I think, in goal, I think he instills confidence.
Yes.
He's calm, unshowy, strong, but it's a tough one, and I wouldn't want just an injury to block Leno's career, and I think he deserved to be number one while he was there. But
Oh, he's brilliant.
this period while he's been injured has made me have second thoughts. But I don't mind. I'm aware that I'm out on a limb here because a lot of Arsenal players want Leno back. But I just think that, I don't know. I think his performances must have given Arteta something to think about.
Oh, definitely. And I think the club, because I think they were looking for a number two. They would be this summer if it wasn't for his performances. So I think he's done himself a world of good there. Now, whether he wants to challenge for be around and be alternating between Leno is another thing. Does he just want to be an outright number one? Because he might move on himself. He might be saying, look, if you can't promise me this amount of appearances, you don't know. Because he's been in the club for, what, 10 years?
Yeah, we mustn't forget that in terms of the national team, Argentina, he has a place in the squad.
Yeah.
Which is no mean feat.
It's not. So it'd be interesting what happens there. But yeah, I agree. I think it's been fantastic. I'm not sure about him being number one. I'll be like that with them. But yeah, I think you're right.
It is difficult. But I make you laugh. I don't know if it'll make you laugh or what, but I saw some speculation about, as you say, Arsenal bringing in a new number two or a new number one guy. And one of the names on it was Jordan Pickford. I knew you'd laugh, you see. I knew you'd laugh.
David, I'd rather you in goal.
Oh, that's saying something. That was one of the big tabloids, by the way.
Jordan Pickford. He's awful. He's an awful goalkeeper.
You heard that one here first. So if it happens, we know that they've lost the plot. But you'll have heard that one here first.
He's awful. He's one of those goalkeepers, because I used to play defence initially. That was one of my first positions I started playing football in.
Mm-hmm.
Was defence, learning my trade back there. He's one of the goalkeepers that just make you nervous. Coming for passes, saving shots. You don't know whether he's going to spill it, he's going to drop it, he's going to punch into his own net, he's kicking, he's going to kick it to the opposition striker, is he going to kick it into his own goal? We don't. And I don't like that. We're talking about Martinez and calm. You need composure from your goalkeeper. It's so unsettling as a defender when you look over your shoulder and you don't know if he's going to come running out past you to try and tackle the player or whatever it is. He's just so. It's the top level, so he has coaches. Someone just needs to say, "Calm down." Just calm down.
I threw that one in to give you a laugh.
Yeah, of course. I totally agree. I thought I'd just make my point about what I think of him as a player.
You made it, yeah.
And he's number one. That's scary.
Yeah, I know.
Right, to Arteta. Is he the man to take us forward? What's your thoughts on his tenure?
He came in at a really difficult time. Obviously, he had this affinity with the club and from his professional career as a player. And I think the fans were behind him. And I think he's earned the backing that they've given him. So I think they are generally behind him. I think he's an intelligent manager. Let's face it, if you're apprentice to Guardiola, you're going to learn a few things. And I think he's been a good learner. But I think he's also quite decisive.
Yeah.
And I like his intensity. I like those, when you have the drink break talks, he's in there with the players.
Yeah, he's a winner.
And I think he is actually. Yeah, I think there's something about him. I think he's got the makings of a really good manager.
I totally agree.
There's an element of me keeping my fingers crossed there. But you did ask me, is he the man to help us challenge for titles? And I think he probably is. I mean, we're in the cup final.
For league titles, not just titles.
Well, obviously, it's a tricky one because, you and I have had chats before about football as a business.
Yes.
Money and how it's spent, There's one hell of a hill to climb, isn't it? When you have financial firepower of Man City standing in the way and then being able to ride a coach in horses through fair play rules, So it's tricky. And when you're part of a Kroenke empire, which doesn't just regard each entity as a separate, discrete element that makes money and loses money, but moves money around the entire empire.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to ask. But I actually think that as a manager, he's got the makings of someone who, given the chance, given the ability to spend money a little bit, not over the top, but to have a little bit of scope there, I think he could get us back up there. But I think we're going to have to turn into that team that you mentioned earlier with the flair and the excitement. You know, we're going to have that De Bruyne element, you know, which makes you think, wow, you see what I mean? You've got to have that sort of presence on the field, haven't you? That sort of quality, anyway. And so, but you asked me, and I actually think that he is probably the man. I mean, let's face it, who else are we going to get?
Yeah, not in finishing 8th.
No, I think he's committed to us. It's been a huge challenge for him coming in with such a state after Emery's departure, because morale was low and everybody was having a go at us, you know. It's a tough one, and I think he seized it with both hands, and I think he's a serious man, which I like.
Yeah. In your opinion, was he an Arsenal legend?
It's an overused word, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't like it, because someone said that to me, he's an Arsenal legend. I'm like, really?
I don't like that. I think it's thrown around. It's a bit like hero, isn't it? Everybody's a hero. I think we've devalued certain words like hero and legend by using them too much.
What do you think, though, in your opinion?
Well, he was a very, very good Arsenal player.
He was.
I'm not sure if fans talk about him because he was a really good servant of the club, a very, very good, and sometimes he did win games for us. But I mean, if you're going to talk about legends, then you're up there with the Bergkamps and
exactly,
and the Henrys, aren't you? I mean, that seems a bit mean-minded, but I don't think so. But I think he was an exceptionally good player. That's what I would say. And I think he's got the potential to be an exceptional manager.
He's got the potential to be a legend as a manager at the club.
Yeah. Now, if he can do what you asked me and make us challenge for the titles, that's when you become a legend. You become like a Klopp. Klopp's a legend.
He is. No one can take that away from him. My opinion about Arteta, like you said, he's got the potential. He's a winner. My reservations are always going to be about about experience, and then people would say, "How are you going to get experience if no one gives you the chance?" The problem is why I mention experience is because of the size of the club. The size of the club and the position we're in, and I'm talking financially as well as league position and not being the mighty Arsenal of old and winning league titles and all this stuff. Now, that's where my reservations with him, yeah? And we're going to see them. That's why this season is so exciting. We're going to really see an Arteta team. And there's going to be no excuses. Oh, no, it's a bit of Emery, it's a bit of that. Yeah, we're going to see an Arteta team, hopefully, if he gets backed in the summer. We're going to see an Arteta team and see how he deals with different games. Because my jury's still out on the game. He's great against big teams and when our back's against the wall. What can he do when the expectations on us to go and take the game to a team? To go and beat a so-called Brentford.
Members of Aston Villa.
Yeah. And this is where my reservations are, because it's easier to get players up for a big game than it is for a team you should beat easily. Yeah, and if we think we're going to go into these games expecting to beat the lower opposition, because we are known as a soft touch, remember now. Yeah, let's remember that about Arsenal Football Club. We're not we haven't got Henry, Bergkamp, Vieira in our midfield and people hate playing us. People think they can get something against us. It's now changed the psychology. So we now have got to be even more on our games in these so-called lesser matches. You think going to Ellen Road is going to be easy? You think if Brent,
You're
if
not even going to the not, you're not even going to the Hawthorns.
you know what I mean? You think that's going to be an easy game?
No.
They're gonna these clubs think they can get something. So, and I think that's where it's important to see how he copes with this mentality. Because I think we'll be fine against bigger teams. I think in a game where we're underdogs, I think he's got an approach that's gonna always we'll nick a point here, we may nick a win there, but I that's my reservations for him. I think experience counts for so much in a game, and I think when you're learning on a job in a team in transition, you're asking a lot. So when we talk about challenging for league titles, that's beyond Arteta as well, because it's about whether he's going to be backed to do that. You can't just do that, just because you're a good coach. It doesn't work like that. There's other things in play. That's having a structure behind you. That's having a club philosophy. That's the owner thinking, oh yeah, right, I need to give you this in order to challenge. So it's not so straightforward. As you said, you've got the heavyweights, Man City and huge clubs like that. Man United even, huge clubs commercially and globally that we're trying to battle against and on a sustainable way of approaching the game. And, so it's bigger than Arteta. But I think if we need someone with more experience. That's my gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I respect him.
Yeah.
I think he's talented. There's no question about it. If Pep's talking about this guy and putting him on this, but this ain't a joke. He has talent. There's no doubt. Now, whether that's going to be realised at this club is my question. It might be another club.
It's interesting, isn't it, where he's brought us. Before Arteta, they used to say about Arsenal that we could beat the lower division, lower clubs, and we had struggled against the top six.
Yeah.
Now, we beat the top two on the trot and came a cropper against Brighton and Aston Villa. It's really weird. So I can see where you're coming from. But I think, obviously, where we are at the moment, we just have to see what happens, don't we, next season?
No, I'm all for it. And that's why, for me, I'm excited.
Oh, it's going to be exciting. Yeah, there's going to be the thrill of the outcome with each game.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, as you said, we're an interesting club.
Yeah.
It's not boring, is it? What's soap opera this season? What's it going to be? Because trust me, it's not going to be an easy ride. I'll tell you that now.
No.
If fans are deluded saying, yeah, we should make top 4, no. I think top 6. I think achievement is getting us into Europe again if we don't win in a FA Cup final, that is.
That's right. It'd be lovely to end this season with some silverware for the sake of the fans, morale. But you're quite right. I think top 6 is best to go in with your expectations a little bit low.
There you go.
And because otherwise, just to go banging on about, oh, we're going to be in the Champions League, it just takes you off the priorities, really.
And for me, it's the whole thing as well. I think I'd rather be in the Champions League and be ready for it, because in certain matches we'll get humiliated if our team was to be in the Champions League. There's no way. Tactically, the talent of some of these teams, the systems of play. Again, as I said, Arteta's learning, so he ain't there yet. So for me, he's going to need that for himself and his own growth and his own development to have a team ready for that level. Because we're nowhere near that type of level if we're saying we want to and actually do well, not be like Wenger and lose 10-2 on aggregate. I mean, actually go and challenge and go into the latter stages. I don't mean just be there as a number. I mean, actually go and, show that we can compete with these big clubs. I think we're way off that. We're way off, man. We got to be honest. And I think that's the thing as Arsenal supporters. Sometimes our expectations are too high. We're not realistic. We were a great club. At the moment, we're in transition. And we've got some way to go again to become this great club and this force, in world football. We're way off there. And our league position shows that. Because this has been an awful year for Premiership football. I mean, the quality has just dropped for me, like everyone. If you think about the low points tallies of Man United making the Champions League and stuff, Man City have been off it. Look at the gap between Man City and Liverpool points, but that's just ridiculous because they're not that much better, but in the league they have been.
Yeah.
So if you think about Leicester being miles ahead and then dropping off to 5th, there's been so many poor performances from these teams this season. So we can talk about all this stuff, and Liverpool's great winning that. Yes, and I respect them for what they've done, but for me, it's been a poor season in that regards. The quality has not been there. Yeah, and it's even shown that them being knocked out of the Champions League and what have you. And I'm not sure about Man City, how far they're going to go because of the defensive issues. So we'll see. We'll see. We got a lot, and as I said, we finished 8th. So how bad were we in a poor league season?
As you say, there are going to be changes afoot, and it could be, as far as the club is concerned anyway, and it should be an exciting season. I mean, it'll be nerve-wracking. There'll be a bit white knuckle at times, but, I think that's what we need at the moment.
Yeah,
Get the adrenaline going.
Yeah, we need that because, we do, as I said, you don't want to be a Stoke of former years.
Which was my fear, actually, at one point.
And just be mid-table, dwindling every season. And that's there's nothingness. You're not close enough to relegation and you're not close enough for Europe. So you're just there in this limbo.
Rot sets in then, doesn't it? And
it does. And then you eventually go down.
You only have to look at those big clubs that have gone down and down. I mean, we talk about Leeds coming back up. Look how they've suffered.
I can't wait for those games, though.
Owners and all that sort of thing, And of course, we got the ownership of the club as well. We've got to make, that's another issue. We've got people in the charge who are sort of ice cold business brains. Yeah.
Will he back in this summer, do you think? Stan Kroenke, will he back Arteta financially?
Well, it's going to be tricky. I mean, obviously, he's got his son now, which I think is encouraging, embedded in the club, if you like. Josh taking a very close eye on it, which means that although, as I said before, that we're simply part of the Kroenke sports empire and can't expect necessarily to have all the money that we earn or to have investment in it. We may have a good season and find out that the money we're making is going into helping build a new stadium in LA. But nevertheless, the fact that he's got Josh in, and I know they know the full merchandising value of a successful Premier League club. Even though the Chinese are trying to switch off the tap, there's a huge following for the Premier League. He knows that in terms of global impact, even on gambling in the Far East, the Premier League is big business.
Huge.
It's massive. And I therefore think that the fact that he's got his son taking a very close interest in the club means that there is the outside chance that Arteta might get a little bit more backing than we currently might think. But who knows? I think fans have to be realistic now. We're just part of a very big outfit. We're just a subdivision of the Kroenke Empire. Yeah,
we are.
But luckily, because of the Premier League pulling power globally, there is money in them there,
Do you think he's the man to, the right owner to take us forward, to challenge him for titles that we talked about earlier?
It's a tricky one because if you look at his track record in the States, it's been very patchy.
Yeah.
It's I'm not utterly convinced. On the other hand, look at the other options. I mean, there's some really dreadful people around in the football club ownership business. I mean, just mention the word Wigan, I mean, it's at least the Kroenkes. I mean, they're serious businessmen, but I think they probably are relative. They sound as though they're legit.
Yeah.
They're business people. They run businesses. They sell, they buy, they build stadiums, they move clubs from one city to another in the States, that sort of thing. But with some of the money coming into football, I worry about that, where it's coming from.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's a bit like Newcastle with the Saudis, I feel very uncomfortable about that.
The interesting thing is it's taking so long, like what's going on with it?
Well, I don't know. Someone's got to give, someone in the is it the Premier League or the FA? Someone's got to give approval to this because it's got all sorts of issues surrounding it. But at least Arsenal doesn't have that issue.
Yeah, there's that, isn't there? Yeah.
We're dealing with business people.
Yeah, we are.
Whose finances are relatively transparent.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of Man City or possibly Newcastle or some other clubs, you wonder,
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
that's where the
we could
game's
have,
gone, though, isn't it?
we could have had a rich Russian in charge, couldn't we? What would that have done to us?
We just don't know.
You don't know. You know,
Usmanov.
exactly. Given that we're simply, I mean, I don't think that Cronkies are in the same league as the Glazers. You know, I mean, I'm not sure about the Glazers and Man United because I mean you could almost say they're milking the club. You know, but
Yeah, they have been though.
they have been because of the way they bought it. You know, with the leverage and everything. But I don't know. I think as things are going, I think we just have to hope that the special interest that Kroenke is taking in the club via his son is a good sign that he'll show us the right sort of commitment and give us the investment. But of course, he's going to expect a return. I mean, we talked about wanting our return on our investment in suffering. He wants a big return because
Yeah,
he's got some big outgoings in the States. I mean, this new stadium he's building is costing an arm and a leg.
billions. Yeah. He said prepare to be excited, didn't he? Last
He
summer.
did say that, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, of course, excitement comes in different forms, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it can be terror, can be exciting sometimes. You know,
It's the season we've had.
I know.
Because that was the delusion of signing Pepe, wasn't it? They knew they had this big signing, and that was going to make everything all right. Like, I see, this was the thing about me and them. I don't trust them. I don't think they're the right people for where we want to be. I think if it was sustaining it and keeping us a healthy club, and we'd never be in a situation where bankruptcy or going into administration or what have you, I think, yeah, that's fine. But if we're talking about challenging and being at the top again, I don't think they're the right people.
Yeah, well, again, it's one of those things. I mean, we obviously the American presence in the Premier League. We mentioned the Glazers. I mean, you know, Man United seem to be, you know, look at the position in the league. You know, and yet I don't think the club is terribly well run.
No.
You know, so you know things can happen. Like I wouldn't have thought. I at one point in the season I couldn't see Man United ending up where they are now, where they ended up at the end.
I think
But they,
lockdown helped them.
so sometimes you could have issues, maybe supposition or maybe real, as they had in Manchester United, with a lot of players actually staying away from games, you know, or wearing the yellow and green scarf. You know, they had all that to contend with, and you know there was a lot of criticism of the new American owners. And then they brought in Solskjaer, and there were some doubts about him, you know. And then they had the Pogba problem, and they contended with all that. And look where they are. You know, so you know, even if we have a similar situation where some fans have doubts about the Cronkies, you know, we've got doubts about some of the contracts we've issued for next season. But you know, things could come together. They did for Man United. I mean, I have to say, I take my hat off to them, or Solskjaer, for getting them where they are. Because you wouldn't have put your money on that, would you, Michael?
No. Lockdown helped him, by the way.
Big one?
Lockdown helped him.
Well, I suppose it did. Yeah, it did. But
all key players came back. They were all injured at a key point.
They did. He had that, yeah.
Martial,
but nevertheless,
Pogba.
yeah. But nevertheless, you know, we were talking about a club that seemed to have lots of issues with the fans, the owners. But you know, if you were a Man United fan now, you'd be feeling pretty pleased with yourself.
You would, and a lot of friends of mine who are been celebrating like they won the league. So
It must feel like that. It must feel like that, given where they were.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hats off to them. I still don't rate Ole. I think they're going to be found out in the Champions League if they get to latter stages. I just think tactically naive, and he relies on the quality of player, and that's it. I don't think he has much nous as a manager. So we'll see anyway. We'll see him.
Going back to the owner issue, that clearly is very, very important. But you can sometimes achieve things in spite of the owners.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's very true. Yeah, no, I totally agree. So that's what we're hoping for. We'll see anyway. So overall rating, David, for the league season out of 10.
Oh, well, put it this way: if you're eighth out of 20, it doesn't sound too bad, does it? And then you're in the. Of course, we're not doing this interview after the cup final.
No.
We could be like this, next Monday, thinking,
But it's going to go out after the cup final.
think on.
It's going to go out after the cup final, so it's interesting. We'll do another one after it and see.
Yeah. So we're in the cup. We're in the cup final. We're eighth. I must admit, I'm disappointed that we didn't end up higher. Clearly, I think we should have been. I think we dropped some points which we shouldn't have dropped. Brighton, Aston Villa,
Definitely.
So I suppose I'll have to give given that we still don't know about the cup final, we're in the cup final. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and say we're going to win.
But just for the league, season.
Just for the league. Oh, the league. Oh, right. Well, I think anybody who's doesn't make it into the Europa League even clearly can't be a high scorer. So I was going to say 6 because I was taking into the cup final into account. But given that it must be disappointing for the fans to end up, where we are, especially with some of the results we've had lately, I'll say 5.5.
Yeah, I think you're very nice.
Yeah, I know you can. Yeah, I know. I tend to be very charitable, but it's a complicated situation to
No, I hear you. It's not so straightforward. I'm going to score the season a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 4. It's really poor. We spent that outlay on Pepe, the positive talk by Josh, not backing Emery for what he needed. Yes, we couldn't, but let's have signings that came close at least to what he was trying to accomplish, and they didn't really because similar type players, but not quite with the experience and what he needs to make his system work. Took too long to get rid of him. Brought in Ljungberg for the stopgap, didn't work. Got in Arteta, yes, great potential, what have you, but lack of experience to kick us on in the league. He just really sustained where we were, because where did Emery leave us, in 9th or 8th, was it? Finished up the same position. So we've not moved on. Yes, we've looked better, but then realistically in the league, we've not improved much. Think about that with the whole thing. So yes, he's got the potential and what have you, and it's a massive risk, Arteta, for me. And it could come off, it might not. For me, again, it's one of these. So the way the club have been in the transfer market, and just the overall the way we've run things, I thought it's been chaotic at times and no real control.
Yeah.
In the back room and on the pitch at times, we looked like a mess. Even under Arteta, in certain games, we looked all over the place. Like maybe good for 45 minutes, then the second 45 were awful.
But of course, he is still feeling his way, isn't he?
Of course, definitely, and we have to give him that leeway. That's why he gets a pass in that regard, because he's still learning. But for me, the season's a 4 out of 10.
Well, let's hope they hear that at the stadium. But what would you give them if they win the cup? For overall performance, taking into account all competitions.
For overall performance, that's a tricky one. 5 or 6. Takes us up a couple of points, maybe.
Because it's Europa League territory then.
Yeah, we're getting Europa, don't we, now? So I've got to always remember that about this FA now.
You know what I mean? Because I said before, if you're not in the Europa League, then I would say it's disappointing for the fans to give a low score. But if you win the cup, you're in it.
Yeah, so that adds another 3 points, maybe 6, 7. I don't want to give them those.
That's why I said at the beginning, I was going to give them 6, assuming we win the cup.
Because you're right, the Europa League then qualifying for that having a disastrous season. So that's a hell of an achievement. It'd probably be 7. I don't like to give those scores when you've had a terrible season, but that is an achievement. Because it doesn't feel right with me saying 7. 6.
Yeah, okay.
6 would be better.
We're thinking on similar lines there, I think, because taking the overall performance,
For Arteta? What's your thoughts on his 25 games? I know it's not a lot to be judging. It's not the whole season, is it? So
It's difficult because basically you've got a manager who's on probation, haven't you?
yeah, that's right. It's true. That's exactly it.
You know, because we know that you can be out so quickly in the Premier League. You know, it's such a cutthroat place for a manager. You know, you don't ever get too comfortable in your seat, you know, in your office, you know, because you know you can be out anytime. But I think for a guy coming in, I think actually he's instilled a bit of respect, self-respect back into the club.
Yeah.
I think he's very good. I think he's an intelligent man. I think he's pulled off some really good wins, which we needed. He's got us into the cup final, and I don't think anybody would have thought that after Emery and Ljungberg.
Exactly. No, it's true.
I think I like the fact that I think he's a good communicator, which is
Definitely.
important in a manager. He's very good with the media. You know, he can give instructions to the players in English, French, and Spanish, which impresses me. So I actually am going to give him the same overall mark I was going to give the club, including the FA Cup, of course, and I'm going to give him a 6.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair score. If he didn't get us to a final, depending on the outcome, of course, it could give him a better mark if he wins it. Yeah, 6. It would have been 5 if we didn't get to a final.
Oh, there's one other factor.
Yeah,
he's got a very cool image on the touchline.
Yeah, he does.
He's a sharp. He's a sharp dresser. You know, he's so.
He gets another half mark for that.
Well, when you think of how even Pep Guardiola turned up against us, you know, he looked at his decorating jeans on. You know, I mean, you know, I know that's not a key factor for fans, but it does for me put a certain attitude across. You have to have an image as a manager. Klopp's got his brand, hasn't he? It's the cap, the glasses, the tracksuit. Some go for a suit. You know, we've got an image now, a cool, progressive image, minimalist image with Arteta. And I think that helps project his focus. No frills, no props. That's just a purely subjective opinion, Michael. You can see that I'm not exactly dressed in the same way as, you know, I'm not modeling myself on Arteta, but I'd love to be able to. But I have to lose a bit of weight though.
You can't see that. It's just see head talk.
Yeah, keep it like that. Keep it like that. Yeah, keep it like that. Zoom is a wonderful thing.
But yeah, I'd totally agree with that. Yeah, David. Yeah, let's go for that 6, and we'll see after the FA Cup final. You know, he could get himself to a 6.5 or 7 if we win that. I'm holding back just the league position
and win it well. Wouldn't it be nice to win it well?
Then he might get a 7.
Might dedicate the game to you, Michael. You might see your cast, you know, your broadcast. And,
yeah, you never know.
You never know. It might inspire him. He might dedicate the game to you. Then you'll be in an awkward position.
David, I want to thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, Michael.
And no doubt we'll cover a bit more because we could have been going on for 3 hours in our next episode. But yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and I look forward to the next episode.